I believe the audio-visual gentleman is all...
We'll have to start right where I left off.
Back up.
Okay, again, I began to speak about the catch basin water sampling in Hillside Lake. And some of the samples taken on or about December 24th of 2013. There's four pages. And on the first page, it has 1 and 2, skips 3, then commences through 4 through 10. Same thing on the second page with a different type of testing, I guess. And then on the third page, it includes, and by the way, both of those pages say 1 of 1. 1 of 1, 1 of 1. Third page includes client sample test ID number 3, and includes a number 11 and a number 12, and that's a page 1 of 1.
And what do you mean? Obviously, you brought in the test pages with you, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I don't have a copy, so I really can't respond to this.
It's actually to get to an endpoint.
Okay.
So it's just a...
I can't follow. I'll listen.
I'm setting the stage to the endpoint. Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm not missing something here.
Okay. I'll try to not make that happen. Okay. And then again, on the fourth page, it includes item 3, that is, or client ID number 3, that's missing on the first page, and 11 and 12, that also is not included on the first page. And all 4 of these pages say that they're page 1 of 1.
Yeah.
Okay. On another test report, sample says analyzed on February 28th, 2014. Client ID samples 1 through 4, page 1 of 1. And lastly, on the sample, it says date received from the lab, date received 4/4/2014. And it has client sample ID 3 and 4, page 1 of 1. And it begs the question where 1 and 2, client ID 1 and 2 might be. And is there a 5 through 12? It's just, it seems incomplete, and all of a sudden, where previous samples were tested positive for human feces, it no longer exists. And in fact, where one of the samples previously, the area where one of the samples taken previously tested positive for human feces, on the April sample collection, we didn't even go there to take another sample. And I have requested, go ahead.
So you're saying we falsified our documents? Is that what you're...
I'm saying it has the appearance of incomplete. I ain't making any accusation of falsifying anything. I'm just asking because you're going
through all this stuff and you're saying there's no name here, no name here. And I would suggest, I understand that you feel you need to do it here. Why don't you call, why don't we sit down, maybe I could have a copy, the engineer could sit down, we could talk about these, how they all came about, the test lab, how they submitted. I can't answer your questions because I don't have it in front of me.
I'd still like to know what exactly the question is, though.
Yeah.
Well, there's a multitude of questions. I won't get to all of them tonight, but at one of our meetings, I had asked, I've actually had 2 of the meetings, I had requested, don't sample any remote catch basins, sample the catch basins that are in the immediate perimeter of the lake, and then backtrack.
No, but by the time we met, we had already done our sampling.
You did one of them. You did one of the samples. There were two subsequents.
No, we did like 12 samplings before we met.
The very first time, I still have, only by sheer coincidence, I have the map that I drew in front of you. At that point in time, you had told me, I believe the number was 15, and you had told me that only the one on Fairview was the one that had tested positive.
For human.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. And as much as I believe that it is the obligation to find the source and correct wherever the pollution is coming from,
right.
First and foremost, my concern is cleaning up Hillside Lake, the lake itself. So, I mean, everything else as far as the remote catch basins and testing and what they may smell like, is different than my object.
Yeah, but
is-
we
You have a
didn't,
different goal.
we didn't do any more after that initial. The only thing we did is we went into the lake when we closed the valve, and we had a strong odor. We took 4 samples, 2 of which came back positive, the one entering the lake and the one exiting the lake. And probably a month or so later, whatever the date was,
Yeah.
April
after a
4th.
rain event,
Yeah, we
went back
retested to see if the
again
rain
and
was
But,
any
resampled.
but with the sample that was tested, where the sample was taken, excuse me, at the exit of the lake, that was not retested according to this document here.
I think we made a minor change if it's at the exit. When we took the original exit, there's like multiple pipes at the outfall, and we had a lot of snow on the ground. My preference might have been to take it closer to the
Well, there
spillway,
were,
I think.
in
if
fact,
I'm
there
not
were 3
mistaken.
samples taken at that location.
Right.
And the outfall that was most significant at that location and at that time was prior to the bypass valve being turned off. And so that, I have to presume, that test came positive from the larger portion of the lake, not from the former swimming hole.
Well, I don't want to recollect incorrectly, but, I mean, we have a diagram downstairs, exactly where the pipes come in, exactly where the samples are taken. And I know the first go-around, we couldn't get exactly where we wanted to get to take a sample, so they took it because of the snow. We had quite a bit of snow at that time. And I know we tried to get a little closer to the spillway, I think the second time, just to try to nail things down
Well,
better.
you have more on your plate than
So,
I do.
So, I mean, we have a diagram of exactly where everything was taken.
I understand, and you have more on your plate than I do, and so I have a probably better vivid memory of what that diagram looks like, because it, well,
May I ask, what is the question then?
there,
Myriad
when
question.
are we going to continue more testing? Is there going to be more testing? And more specifically, are we going to test the final catch basins in the perimeter of the lake?
I think we're still working at trying to identify any issues as far as the MS4 regulations and finding out where any septic might come in.
Well, let me just, if
Yeah,
I
we
could,
talked about this
as
the
far
other
as
day.
the sampling, let's talk about the lake specifically. On a day that we went out to shut the valve, that it was a strong enough odor to knock you over, we immediately sampled, they came back positive, okay? The rain event sometime later, we went back and resampled, there was no odor, they came back negative, okay? Now so we have a positive set and we have a negative set. And we are gonna go back after some period of time, maybe if somebody reports a strong odor, and do another round of sampling, entering the lake and exiting the lake. So right now,
But
we have a
that's-
set that's positive and a set that's negative, and your nose can pretty much dictate what the result's going to be.
But that
Anyone smell an odor
secondary
out
or
there today?
subsequent,
Do
that's,
you?
that subsequent testing was done, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you have that recollection, that subsequent testing was done after all of the catch basins were hydrovac'd.
May or may not be.
But
I
the
don't have those.
intent of the second round of testing was after, I believe, a rain event to try and see if the rain had any
Right.
effect on what we were
And keep in
getting.
mind, the first round of testing was done based on the nose.
Based
You know,
on the
wherever
nose,
we
yeah.
smelt the strongest odor. I think we spent like $3,000 sampling. We could spend $30,000
Yeah.
sampling. So we went based on where we had the strongest odor. That's where we sampled downstream of those points.
Okay.
And
I
even though we
can't
did detect something, it turned out to be animal waste.
I can't emphasize enough, and you're an engineer, I am not, but I think if you were to test downstream, that being the final catch basins to the lake, that would be where the utmost concern would be.
And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Not
And we were
according to
kind of
these,
surprised by some of the
not
results
according to
that we
these
got.
tests.
Yeah, that's
You're
what
up
we
on, you're up on Third Road on some of the preliminary tests, 600 feet away
I'm
from,
not going to argue a map I don't have in front of me.
okay.
And
So,
obviously, you
we
could
could- you could
discuss this
certainly
at
come
another
in as
time
you've
where you
done
can all sit
multiple
around
times,
the table and
we
look
can
at
sit
the
and
map and
talk
talk about it.
I did that once already, that's my point, and you asked why I'm here, and that's why I'm here, because now I have everybody's
And
ear,
again-
and maybe everybody can have some input. I think the final basins are where the test should occur.
And again, to your point, if we smelled an odor upstream and not downstream, then we would sample where we smelled the odor. The whole intent was to try to find if there was sewage in the catch basin. That was the intent. That's why we spent the money. Not
Okay.
to avoid it, but to find it.
And I wish you well success in finding it, because over the years, it has been stated numerous times that the demise of the Hillside Lake is on account of failing septic systems and/or water being conveyed into the Hillside Lake. So I hope we find that. But in a similar vein, and a little bit of a different note, there were two dry hydrants in Hillside Lake for the Hillside Lake Fire Department to utilize. And I believe Mr. Hickman, Mr. Wood, and Mr. Brown, I believe the three of you were CC'd on an erroneous letter that came from the fire commissioner, that being that that dry hydrant was requested to be removed. That was not requested by anybody in Hillside Lake to be removed. It was done on their own accord. The reason being it became dysfunctional, and they claimed, I don't know, they claimed that it was ruining some of the fire apparatus equipment. The reason why it became dysfunctional is because it's laden with silt, and approximately 50 feet or 75 feet away from there is in fact an inlet, the same inlet where you took one of the samples, that constantly gets silt coming in with heavy storms. So my bottom line is, because you keep asking me what's the question, it's a statement. I want to know when the town is going to figure out what their contribution of siltation into Hillside Lake is. We lost that dry hydrant because it was laden with silt. Something that Hillside Lake Fire District taxpayers paid to have it installed.
Well, it's the East Fishkill Fire District, one
Yeah.
fire district for the whole town.
So is
Okay,
it-
well,
so
I see
it's
a
a
line
fire
item on
hydrant.
my tax bill that says Hillside Lake Fire
No, it
District.
says East Fishkill Fire District.
Yeah.
Okay, I could be,
Hillside Lake is a fire company
Okay.
which receives monies from the East Fishkill Fire District, which levies taxes on all the homes and properties in the town of East Fishkill.
okay, I stand
And that's
corrected.
governed by a separate elected board of fire commissioners over which the town board has no jurisdiction.
I understand that. I stand corrected in the line item of taxation, but I still
Maybe
pay
the
East
Hillside- It could say the Hillside Lake Lighting District, but it will say
It does.
East Fishkill
All right.
Fire district.
It does, but then I will add another angle, and that being not now having that dry hydrant there may further jeopardize a home burning down should there be an inadequate supply of water. I'm sure that's why it was put there in the first
I think
place.
that's an issue you take up with the fire commissioners, but I don't believe that the fire commissioners would remove something from service that's going to place any risk upon them. Should they feel confident that they have equipment and ability to fight the fires appropriately.
And I am confident in their confidence, but the underlying point that I am trying to make with all of this is because of siltation entering the lake, that is why it became unusable.
Good.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Regarding the last meeting, I know Scott there was discussion that Cook was cleaning the catch basins and that if they noted anything or noticed anything that they would
Take a
address
record.
it, you know. I don't know that that's a way to go about testing the catch basin. Even though they are licensed, if they're gonna, shouldn't they all be tested? Just trusting in them, I don't know what certifies them to, you know, to be the decision maker as to whether or not there's a contaminated basin or not. Because it was stated that if there was something wrong, they would, you know, they would make a note of it.
Right.
But unless their noses are certified, how are they going to do that?
Well, that's what they do for a living. They do clean catch basins. They're going to clean
Supervisor.
every catch basin. And if I just may, that, you know, while they're there, it would just make sense to me that they would make notes of any irregularities
All
or
right.
anything like
Look-
that.
But I just want to be clear on the logic,
Yeah.
okay? We got 70 or 100 basins, whatever we have up there.
We have 4,000 catch basins in the town of East Fishkill.
We can test every one and spend a fortune, or we can take an educated guess, based on what we smell, and say, let's do what we think is a test of 10% or whatever of the worst basins we think that are
Right.
out there. Okay,
I'm not-
let's start with that.
But I don't
If they
even
come
want...
back hot, or we get
Yeah.
30% of them hot, then we'll take it to another level.
Right, right.
All right, but the only one that came back hot was on the other side of the lake,
Scott, I'm not
to an
even
abandoned
saying that.
house,
I'm
and we're
not
dealing
even
with
addressing that.
But I'm just trying to say there was a logic in place with our sampling.
I'm
Okay?
not-
It
it's
wasn't
not where I'm
random,
going. It's
and
not
it
where
wasn't
I'm going with
arbitrary, okay?
Yeah.
It was based on logic, okay? And
I
had we
get it.
had multiple hits the first time, we would have expanded our testing.
I get it,
we
but you're
didn't.
explaining something to me that really doesn't have anything to do with...
So
my
beyond
job.
that, if Cook is out there and happens to find a fluke,
Yeah.
he's going to report
He's
it.
going to let us
Right.
know.
All I'm saying is that it was stated that these people are licensed, and that if they, in other words, my impression was that they're so certified and licensed that they are qualified to detect a contaminant in that water. And the very fact that they're not really certified to do that, they may be transporting contaminants in that truck somewhere that's going to contaminate another area. So I don't understand, if this truck doesn't have a separate compartment and number to each catch basin that they check, how do we know that they're not contaminating or bringing contaminants?
But again, I think you got to have a little faith that this is a licensed carrier. They pump septics not only in Hillside Lake, but
Right.
throughout the state, throughout
Right.
the county, okay? It's not only Hillside Lake that has septic problems. We have potentially
another one
problems
up
in
in Stormville.
Stormville. We have problems anywhere. So again, their license is on the line that if they're out there, wherever they may be, pumping, catch basins clean, if they detect something, I think they have a fiduciary responsibility to report it.
I understand.
Because it's their license, it's their job on the line if they commingle it.
I understand that. I just think that there's a flaw somewhere within them cleaning out and noting if there's contaminants or not. Because again, like I said, unless their nose is somehow certified or they do a field test, they may very well be transporting contaminants from a catch basin somewhere.
But are you suggesting that you test every catch basin
No.
every year
No,
before you
no,
pump it?
no. I'm not suggesting that.
Then what are you
I'm
suggesting?
talking about the fact that this company goes around, I'm saying that somewhere there's a flaw within that system that
Well-
needs to be looked at.
But New York State DEC says that they license
Right.
various truck companies like this to be haulers, to
Right.
clean out and to haul. So if they find something that's a contaminated or septic waste,
If they find it.
if they do, they're responsible then to take it out in a separate truck. It has to be disposed of separately, and they are inspected, by DEC, so.
But Tom, we're already past that point. They already, again,
But they have contracts and bids with almost every municipality I can think of.
all
in
I'm
Westchester.
saying, and I won't go on any further, there is definitely a flaw in the way that is being done. What they really need to do is field test, have a quick field test, at least. Not that if their nose smells something, that's illogical. Then they're gonna go and carry a contaminant in the very truck that they're not supposed to be carrying them in.
Okay.
Okay. John, I've complained about speeding around Hillside Lake for quite a while.
Yep.
And again, I'll ask if somehow you people could look into lowering the speed limit. And I would offer that any member of the council would like to take a ride around there and see that 30 miles an hour is too much. Whatever could be done about it really should and needs to be done. And just to substantiate that a little bit, the speed limit has been there for God knows how long. 45 years that I'm there, there were no paved roads or anything. It was a summer residence. Now you got 450 families. Back then, 30 miles an hour maybe didn't make a difference. Today, 30 miles an hour in there is dangerous. And I ask you again, could you please look into having the speed limit lowered? If it means I don't know if you need a petition, if you want me to try and get a petition for the amount of people, but I think that common sense ought to dictate, and if any one of you guys want to take a ride around there and see that that's way out of order, I don't know why something an attempt isn't being made to lower the speed limit.
New York state law says the
gonna
town
say.
board has the right to regulate speed between 30 and 55.
Okay.
The state legislature has said the town board can't go below 30 except in a bona fide school zone, which is 1,000 feet either way from a school, nor can they exceed 55. So
Is that the only,
36.
I thought that it was stated one time when I asked about this, unless it could be proved
you
that,
can
you
make a
know.
petition to the Commissioner of Transportation in the state of New York, which very rarely have I ever heard that they approve any, and that would require a huge professional traffic study and analysis. And obviously, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do it for a greater part of the community.
That's part of the problem with the whole system, because all one of those people in the decision-making process has to do is get in a vehicle, drive around there, see that it's too fast. Instead, we're stuck, you know, on stupid with people that got to go through a whole big ordeal to do this. But if it means trying to get a petition, you know, is there a certain amount of...
Well, I think
No, it's
you
not
have
a
to-
petition. You would have to have a
Request.
traffic engineering firm
Okay,
retained.
where can I start, Tom?
Tom,
Where
can you just
can I
send us?
start? Tell me where I can
Who
start.
do they petition, who do they ask for?
Yes.
New York
Well,
State
The
DOT?
Commissioner of Transportation. New York
Commissioner of
State DOT.
Transportation, New York State DOT.
Okay. Okay. The entrance to the Hillside Lake, South Hillside Road entrance, maybe you could ask Dennis, that was once fairly presentable when you come up into the development. They did work there a couple of years ago. They loaded it up with gravel. They never put dirt on it, seeded it or anything. I initially seeded all of that, and so it looked fairly decent. You drive up there now, and it looks like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's certainly not presentable when you're going into the entrance to the lake.
Your first entrance?
Yeah, South Hillside, yes.
The first entrance.
They did what I would call the damage. I've asked about it repeatedly, and nothing is getting done. And as a result of that, there not being a lawn there, all the gravel is washing out onto the main road. I think I showed Tom Franco, I think I showed Manny, and Peter Cassidy. And I don't think anybody would disagree with it. And so long as we got some logic there, why don't we just take care of it? So that it doesn't cause further erosion, and it's very unpresentable at this point, or detractable, or whatever.
And the town did this work?
Huh?
The town did this work?
Yeah, yeah. When they
It's a
put,
county road, so I just want to be sure that was when the town did it, not the county, when they cleaned their,
no, I'm
ditch
talking
line.
about when you enter the
Yeah.
development on South Hillside Road, from West End Road to the beginning of South Hillside Road, okay? Which leads me to the other thing. A catch basin was put in over there. And there is no blacktop around the catch basin on two sides of it. So the water that comes down West End Road is washing a ton of gravel into that catch basin. I don't know why it was done like that to begin with. And I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying I don't know why the work would be done in a shoddy manner the way it was. It just doesn't make any sense. The other thing is the same thing with Mission Road. When you come in the main entrance, Mission Road is all eroded. It washes the gravel to the road. I asked about it. They said that they were going to put some, what do you call that, stone wrap or whatever. And that's all it would require over there, so that the road doesn't continue to get washed out, which is going to need repair, and that the stone and gravel doesn't wind up at the entrance at the stop sign where somebody's going to go sliding into the road. And maybe one final thing, unless I could come across something else in here. Can we admit that the street sweepers came out too early this year? Can we sort of agree that maybe next year that they ought to come out a little bit later in April or whatever, and that I not get answers from the highway superintendent, that we usually send them out sooner in March. It doesn't make any sense to send them out in March when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. Can we agree that, that shouldn't happen anymore? That I could know that next year I'm not in for another argument with somebody? Can I ask Councilmember Manny, do you agree that maybe they were sent out too soon?
Well, this year probably yes, but, I don't know if these people could predict the weather, but
Well,
we had a long winter this year,
We don't have to predict the weather, but we
I don't know how they
We
scheduled,
know that we're in March with a forecast of snow. Now, I understand that they don't call the sweeper that day, but knowing that the weather is a little unpredictable, why not make it for the start in the first 2 weeks of April? Listen, I don't really have, I don't feel like I should have to stand here and justify something that was so illogically done.
Of course.
I got gravel all over the road that I pay taxes to have removed.
Okay, we've had this discussion. We have 200 miles of town road. So we contract with 3D sweepers. I think they have 2 sweepers. They sweep 200 miles of town road. They start here, they end there. I don't know how long it takes, weeks, probably 6 to 8 weeks, maybe months. I don't know. I'm not the highway superintendent. But when I called the highway, after you called a couple times, I asked over highway, and Dennis had said, because this was such a tough winter and I said this to you, with all the sand we put down during this winter, it was such a difficult winter, there were certain areas he hit already once that he was going to come back and do again, but he wanted to hit him the first time. He felt there was that much sand put down. Now, understand they're going to come back again.
John, I'm not going to try and hold your feet to the fire on this, but you know what? I almost want to stand here until I get a logical answer. Instead of getting stories and fluff
I'm not going to say
stuff.
I'm not going to say
Not
sorry
you,
or fluff,
John.
but what do you
Not
want?
you.
You want if we start in April and then they end in
John,
June? Is
John.
that what you want? I'm asking you. Bob.
I'm gonna show you how what you just said, the response that you got from whoever you got it from is out of order. I'm gonna show you how that's
Okay.
out of order. I was told that normally they come sooner in March than what they did. Well, for what reason? Tell me for what reason that they would come sooner in March when we got snow and everything else?
An early
For
spring.
the reason to see the gravel all around the road right now?
But can I
weather
answer that?
dependent.
'Cause
Yeah, I'd like somebody
weather
with a
I've asked that
logical
question
answer.
myself, and Dennis switches over from a sand salt mix to a salt mix around that time. So that's why he's able to go out early and clean up the sand, because at that point, he switched over to salt.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
doesn't
he's
use-
told
I-
me.
doesn't use
missed
sand
that, Scott.
anymore.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you repeat that?
Yes. At some point in March, I'm not sure the exact date, but there's a point where Dennis switches, the highway super switches from a sand salt mix to just salt.
Okay.
So he's able to get the sweepers out, okay, and if it's salt, you don't have to sweep it up, all right? So you see the trucks going, but you don't realize they've changed the mix from a sand salt mix to a salt mix. And he does that in conjunction with getting the sweepers out. My road has still not been swept. I'm dying for him to come because I want to start doing my landscaping. So, like
Well,
the supervisor
you know.
said, with 200 miles of road, it probably takes him 8 weeks. He's got to start sometime to finish sometime.
And they drive-
But he
they drive-
does,
Let me
but he
ask
does
you then.
switch from the sand salt mix to the salt
Let-
right
let-
around
let
that
me
time
ask
they go
you.
out.
Listen, I'm not trying to be crude or rude or anything else. I really don't care when Dennis switches over from salt to sand to the truck to whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, his timing is definitely off, okay? If you drive around and see the amount of gravel that's remained, how can you sweep with 2 feet of snow on the ground? It doesn't make any sense. And all I'm saying is that I would have liked to have ended this already and have everybody go home, including myself, but I just feel like I need a logical answer. And there is no logical answer to send a sweeper around in March with snow on the ground. Don't do it. Or stipulate.
The curbs were still encroached with snow.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak to whether they're out there with snow or not. They haven't been on my street, that's all I
Okay,
can
well,
attest to.
what I'm saying.
But you
is-
asked, why would you do it if you're still putting the sand down?
No, I
And you're
didn't
not
say
still
anything
putting the
about
sand.
still- I didn't say anything about still putting sand down. I didn't say that,
I think
Scott.
we-
What I
I think-
said was that there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, and we got sweepers coming around. and it doesn't make any sense. And I don't think anybody here is convincing me that, why not just say that it needs to be done at a later time of the year, and assure the people that we're gonna get our money's worth when the sweeper comes around? What is the big project about this? I don't get this simple elementary stuff that gotta go on and on and on. It doesn't make sense.
Right. I'm not the highway superintendent.
John, I know that.
And Bob, let me speak a minute. And what I get from Dennis, it's weather related. He tries to start early because we have so many roads. Probably this was not the year to try to start early because the winter didn't go away.
But
he
March,
does
we
try
all
to.
know what happens in March.
But-
I mean, it's not like that in March it don't snow and it happened just this
But like
year.
Scott says, in March, he changes it over to straight salt.
Forget about what he changes it over. He'll
Just
change
let
it
me
over later.
finish. Let me finish. They come in, he wants to do the roads, he wants to get them done in a certain amount of time.
Let him get them done later and
Okay.
in a more appropriate,
Well,
more
and I don't know
appropriate
what
time.
3D does
What
because-
is he gaining by doing this? He's not gaining anything.
Fine.
He's not gaining anything by doing it.
Okay.
Go past my house and see what he's gained. Go past the other roads.
Yeah.
And if he's so concerned about the gravel going into the catch basin, then when you install the catch basin, why is there blacktop on 2 sides and not 4, allowing gravel to run in there? That's it, John.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak on non-agenda items?
Yes. I'll be brief.
How you doing?
Good evening, I'm Keith Stouter, with Cronin Engineering. I've been asked to come here tonight to represent Rich Melly and several of other property owners. What I've passed out tonight, this is a quick little handout showing the current zoning map. The second page shows signatures of the interested property owners, and the third page is just an aerial of the area. As you can see on the first sheet, the zoning map, the red line, the redlined area is the area that is currently owned by the parties that have signed the petition. And as you can see, those properties are bounded immediately to the west with the I-2 zoning district, an industrial zoning district. It's bounded to the north by Waterkill Garden Gun Club. It's bounded to the east by the Central Hudson power lines.
Yeah, we can see that. What are you looking for? What is the zone correct? What is it currently
Right
zoned?
now, those properties are currently zoned R1, single family.
R1,
and,
okay. Both sides of the road?
Both sides of the road,
Okay.
yes.
The side of the road going up Route 82 where the little house was, that's R1 on that side, correct?
Yeah, the part between Beekman Road and
You were
Route
just in
82.
front of the planning board for something for that? Was there did I go by there, see a planning board or something?
We were before the planning board on the other side of the road.
Where the little red house is?
Yes, we're the Little Reds. We did
Yeah.
a 2-lot subdivision there, yes.
Okay, that's 2 lot. That's R1?
That's R1.
Okay, and that's to remain R1?
Well, the property owners are interested in converting these properties into a B2 or B1 zoning district. It would provide a connectivity to the B1 that is immediately adjacent to these properties. Actually, Mr. White's property to the east contains part of the B1 zoning district on his property. The Stockyard Restaurant site is I2.
Yeah.
It seems to make perfect sense to make a connection between those two commercial zones to include this parcel. It's on a very busy road.
And then the other side where the old house used to be,
That's included in...
that's R1 now, correct?
Yes, yes.
And it goes all the way down to the old Sylvan Lake telephone building?
Yeah, it goes to Old Farm Road.
Okay. No, on the side where you have the Veterans Memorial, then you had where the old house used to be, straight back, that goes all the way down, that's all R1 also?
Yes, all the yellow. All the yellows are one.
Okay. Just one thing that I'm kind of questioning. I see you have all the property owners, and all the property owners, but one property owner seems to have signed, same property owner,
Well,
One, two, three,
Mr.
4,
Melli
5,
owns-
6, 7, 8 signatures by the same property owner.
Right, there's
Muzzicato didn't sign. Who's Muzzicato?
She is on the north side of 82, right in the middle.
Okay. And she wasn't that her old house there?
I think
Wasn't that the
she's
Muzzicato
still
house?
living, I believe she's
Yeah,
still
Dr.
living.
Muzzicato's house, I thought. Okay. All right, Tom, do you want to explain to us a little bit about the rezone application?
Well, we're here to, yes, we're here just to open a dialogue with the town, just.
Well, there's a procedure under the zoning law. There's
Sure.
a formal petition that would have to be
Right.
filed by the property owners with certain information.
Right.
And then the town board has the right to consider it. They're not obligated to consider it.
Absolutely.
But they have the right to review it.
Okay.
And that's submitted to the town clerk.
Right.
Do you want to rezone this from R1 to B2?
Well, there's B2 immediately on the other side of the I2 district, and there's B1 past that to the west. So B2 or B1 would make, it seems like it would make sense to make that connection between the parcels.
Would it be fair to ask what the property owners, any ideas what they'd be putting in there?
I don't think there's any formulated ideas at this point in time, but I think that, knowing that the area's got good soils, it's got good access to Route 82, two major roads there, that it might lend itself to some real good commercial enterprises.
But isn't the one piece that was before the planning board, that's where the turtle habitat is and the...
That is correct.
Wetlands, and then there was the representation that that was only going to be used residential.
Well, that was my question. Is they're in front of the planning board, and they got a two-lot subdivision out
It
of
was,
it, correct?
it could only be, they wanted three, it could only be divided in two when law was set
Because
down
of the
because of the
wildlife,
environmental
yeah.
restraints.
Right, the large piece in the middle, in the middle of that red bounded area is a 19-acre parcel. Behind that area, in that north side of that property, between Rich Carroll's property and to the northeast is a large wetland. That wetland does contain the Blandings turtle, so we had a take permit issued to the applicant for the Blandings turtle. We provided mitigation on the large piece where we delineated the wetland. We provided a nesting area for the turtles, and there's a whole bunch of other restrictions on that property.
Is that also the parcel that when you're at the Daddy-O's restaurant, you look where all
You
the
see all the-
stumps are and
Yeah,
all the containers?
all the
and
land clearing
material
equipment.
That's in the back behind,
Right.
off
This
Turner
parcel,
Street.
I think
If
there's
you leave Daddy-O's and you look straight ahead, there's,
like a stump grinding operation
Yeah.
or something.
well, in the back, well, I know that's off Turner, in the back,
yeah.
there's
But that's
the,
on this parcel.
that's on the large, on the large part.
Okay. All right, the board have any questions for the representative, for the applicant today? I mean, obviously, this is something kind of, what we say, out of the blue. So, anybody have any
Again,
questions from now?
the property owners just wanted to start a dialogue, and obviously, we know the protocol and what we need to do to make a formal petition. We just wanted to present this to you and see if you had any ideas, or if you wanted to discuss it at a workshop, we'd be
Yeah.
open to that.
No, that's fine. I mean, at least the board's got an idea of what the applicant's going to be asking. We expect to see a formal application, and, but in the meantime, if you guys have any question now, or do you have any contact information, if anybody has any questions on this? Or you're just going to, you'll be back before us anyway, correct?
I believe so.
I would think so. So, any questions tonight? No, we're good. All right, we'll take a look at it. Ask the property owner to submit a formal application. We'll see where it goes.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, is there any other public comments on general town issues?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Town board meeting is now closed. Next board meeting will be May 8th, town board workshop. Thank you very much.